just like that, we are back over in Brazil for our second match of the day here. And this week in the PPC, Dolson joined by Kresnik for this set. And Kres, on paper, this could be a bit of a David versus Goliath story. Parallax, very difficult team, not only just to win a game off of, but I don't think they've lost a set here yet. Up against Fatal Ambition, a team that has shown promise, but maybe hasn't capitalized on it to the point that they had hoped to up to this point here in this phase.
I mean, Fatal, the team that just continues to take one map, two maps off of some random other teams, but not really able to do much. And actually, the last time that they were able to play against Tempest team, they lost. They gave Tempest team their first win. So going from this team that I thought was showing a lot of promise with these roster changes, getting Divino, swapping him around with some of these other players when they have the double controller, but they lost to Tempest, and they just have not looked the same since then.
Quite literally a top versus bottom matchup here. 11-0 for Parallax Gaming, putting that on the line against the 1-10 team in Fatal Ambition. Again, though, I mean, it's always going to be interesting against this Fatal Ambition team. Nothing guaranteed. In Control Ignite, another fun matchup I think there will be to watch over here in Brazil. So, you know, it's the age-old question. What realistic chance do you think that Fatal Ambition has today going against Parallax? And is there anything picks and bans wise that you maybe think of that's worthwhile taking away from these guys?
Taking away from Parallax, I just don't think you target a Spexy. I feel like he's just too flexible. I think you really have to go for what you as a team specifically struggle against. Mitau can play the whole gambit. We've seen him play Victor, Strix, Cassie. He'll play anything. A Spexy has all the blasters and a bunch of backlines in the pocket. Either go for the tanks or go for your personal, what you don't want to see, whether it be Torvald, whether it be Rom, any of those things, I think has to be what Fatal Ambition aims for if they want to at least take a map off to Parallax.
Fair enough. We talk about the maps. Let's see where we're headed for map number 1. Stone Keep, standard, all things considered. A pretty normal first map, I think, for both of these teams to move in towards. And I'm glad you bring up, you know, a Spexy and how good he's been for this team. Because at some point, Kres, you know, I don't know if you do bother looking towards him in the ban phase. Totally to your point. I think there's just too much that he's good at. The Stone Keep is an interesting kind of twist, I think, to some of his god pool. Obviously, we've talked about the Eevee and you know, the Maeve, very important. Those hyper-mobile, flanky type characters, very good for a Spexy. But this guy also brings the other types of blasters to the table as well. I mean, Bomb King, I think, comes to mind, and having the ability to play those types of drafts on your team, very important for the success of Parallax up to this point.
For sure, it's let them be significantly more flexible, and you can see Fatal Ambition already targeting the tanks, and Parallax are targeting the controller. They're trying to hit headed at not PS1, whichever one of them are in this game, and then maybe a little bit of a dig towards the mobile flankers that they don't want to deal with. Surprised to see Eevee not taking the reins there in terms of the second ban over the Maeve. I get that Maeve has had more success, but I feel like Fatal might just struggle more against that pick. But Parallax, they're the ones that actually get rid of Torv, and they give Fatal Ambition that first pick Corvus to help the rest of their DPS play.
Well, Parallax, I mean, or Stone Keep rather, definitely a map where the pick like the Maeve, or a pick like the Maeve can work here. Eevee's still left open, I know, Ramsey. Eevee's still left open, so definitely something that Parallax could look towards in future picks here, but Corvus first for Fatal Ambition, that'll be answered back with a Genos first pick for Parallax Gaming. So a strong start here for both of these teams, lock down those mark healers. And then you start to wonder what type of priority are we going to get here today, because for a while it's been both healers and then some front lines, maybe some damage dealers at some point. And for Parallax right now, the damage dealers are key, or a damage dealer is key. They're going to grab the Genos and the Bomb King with their first two.
That makes sense. I mean, enable a Spexy and get the best enabler in the game, arguably, in the Genos. And he also has some great lineups for his ultimate. Here, when you're trying to push into the last capture, you can send it from the main choke to the top right, catch people off very easily that way. But he can get Dove a little bit depending on the kind of character that goes in. And Droxus, definitely a good filler there for Fatal Ambition. That's mobility, that's verticality, all the stuff that can definitely come into play on this map. And since they don't have the Genos, Fatal Ambition can get that Inara. They can have that arguably best point tank in the game for now, until next patch when she has a couple little changes. Like, I still think she'll be strong, but definitely not at the level she is currently. But she'll be able to be a strong presence on the point for whatever main tank Parallax ends up picking up.
Yeah, I think that's smart here for Fatal Ambition. I mean, you get the Androxus, which has the potential. It has that high ceiling that if the individual player can meet it, you can go toe-to-toe with the likes of Bomb King, maybe a Buck. Now we're starting to get into scary territory, I think, here for Parallax and Victor as well, all paired with this Genos. They realize, I suppose, Chris, there's no Inara. We might as well just go full-blown damage. They've got a little bit of everything here. Some dive with the Buck, some sit in range and pour out damage with the Victor, and then something somewhere in between there with the Bomb King.
Yeah, I like having the flexibility here between the three, but I don't love triple DPS on this map a lot of the time. I feel like it struggles a lot on the push when there's a tank in both lanes, but if Fatal also go triple DPS, then it evens out, and then Parallax have the Genos to give them the advantage there, but Fatal should get a second tank here, whether it be Khan, whether it be some sort of aggressive, I think,
Rom is still around.
Diving tank to go with the Andro. Rom's still available too. Yeah, Rom would be fantastic, but they're going to do off-tank Fernando instead, purely, I think, for keep control.
I totally forgot Rom was still around, I have to admit, Krez. I mean, normally he's either banned or picked up super early on in some of these drafts. And Parallax could potentially get a Rom late on here, but, lots potentially available. We've seen some teams start to look towards the Barrack as a point tank option. Instead, it's going to be a Rom. So, Krez, you look at this Parallax draft, I'm not sure they're all that concerned about immediate point control. It seems like they might be trying to win the fight first and then deal with point capture afterwards.
I think that's one of the ways to do it with triple DPS. That's one of the better ways to kind of make up for it, right? If you can't out-sustain them, just win everywhere else. Then the Inara will just be standing on the point looking at you, being effectively useless. I mean, she's getting some cab time. All she's doing is denying your chance to get a retake. How do you cancel that out? Just don't lose.
Fair enough. Just don't lose. That's the motto, I think, for this Parallax Gaming team. They have not lost. They've lost individual maps, but no sets yet. The perfect 11-0 for Parallax Gaming on the line in game number 1 against Fatal Ambition. Can all of this potential that we've talked about for Fatal Ambition finally turn itself into a win? Well, they've got a tall task today going against, well, admittedly, and I don't think all that hard to agree, that is the best team in Brazil that they'll be facing off against here in Parallax Gaming. Different look, though. I mean, it's sort of a standard double damage, double tank composition, though with a twist in the off-tank Fernando going up against something like the triple DPS here for Parallax Gaming. Do you like one sort of meta comp over the other, just sort of in general? Do you like normally seeing these triple DPSs, the standards? What do you like here?
I like triple DPS, but not on Stone Keep. I just find it to falter quite a bit on this map, so I would normally lean towards Fatal, but I don't know if I love the fact that they wanted to take Nando away. It's triple DPS with Genos. They don't care what tank they have. He just has to live for 5 seconds at most, and Divino, he's here alone to contest this side. They're just going to bully right past him, and there goes the Rom.
Yeah, look at the way this game has started. They just walk by Divino. They, meaning just the one, walk by Divino. That leaves Mitau in the back to do some good damage. It's 1-for-1 trade, though. Dintic, Divino, both go down. Mitau still alive, able to do good damage from the high ground here. And this is where it's going to be difficult for Fatal Ambition, unless some of those Strix shots are going to be connecting. Talk about important for Fatal Ambition to have a chance in this game. I think headed on this Strix has got to be able to outbox Mitau to really give the blue side a chance on retaking.
And the start of the game is when it's going to be able to happen. But he can look the other ways, too. He finds Outlander first. That'll be the opener here with no damage boost, and RC finds the next.
Now it's a fight back in for Fatal Ambition, showing some of that momentum that we know they can bring, and headed will get another. Down goes Dintic, so 63% in climbing already for Fatal Ambition. Parallax Gaming full back and respawning. Looking dire right off the rip here. Divino won't be dire straits if he goes down. Really all about a retouch here for Parallax Gaming. A King Bomb back from a Spexy. He's just going to delete Divino, and they do have one. They have the Rom over by the point to attempt the retake here. It's an accursed arm down. A Spexy sidesteps a couple, but Androxus finally gets it done there. Overtime is on, but Parallax Gaming, Krez, they have retaken in overtime, and a double kill for Mitau will help him get there.
The pressure from Spexy was just so good. He knew that kill was happening. He did a 360 on the way in with the King Bomb. You just couldn't stop him at that point. This retake, even after getting it with that Inara cap time initially, is going to be really hard for Fatal Ambition to do. They have to throw Divino in first, and there's a barrage waiting for them.
Well, Fatal Ambition did not look for a moment like they would lose this one. Suddenly, everything hangs in the balance. Luckily, Headed gets the kill, but then Dintic answers back with one of his own. The front line starting to get it done now for Fatal Ambition. Groundford needing to stay alive. Look at the healing. Look at the sustain from the Inara. And it's a double kill, and now a seismic crash on the back end. Fatal Ambition, they bought themselves back in. A little bit longer than maybe they had hoped, but Fatal Ambition get point number 1 nonetheless.
Off of a strong retake there. Headed has been so impactful from them. He's been basically, again, finding the first pick in every single one of these. That's what your sniper does. And another one for Headed there, playing from that fire angle, it looks like. Just looking straight down up top. And this is where triple DPS should struggle on this map. The defenses and the pushes, they can't hold both lanes at once. And hell, I don't even think Rom can hold one of those on his own, really. They're going to have to find a way to initiate because there's no other way for them to take space.
Well, it's tough for Parallax if this is where you're supposed to struggle, because you've already somewhat struggled on the mid fight, so now you really need to get some points on the board. RC God starting to swing a little bit on this Androsis. It's a 6 streak for him, and a Cursed Arm could make 7. Plugs down, 99% of damage, and then a little bit of damage off to the side for what effectively is 2 TKOs, but unfortunately, with Fernando going down, they will have to back away, but look at where Headed's positioning. I mean, this is a great microscope into the way this game looks for him. Nobody has been able to dive in onto the back just yet as he connects with another kill onto Outlander. Up on the right-hand side, Spexy was able to do some decent damage. Groundford not able to stay alive. There's a small push happening up top. Oh! He poppy bomb him off the side. I'm not sure. Kron's got the kill anyway. Parallax Gaming were able to get a few big kills onto Fatal Ambition, but there is still a lot of time on the clock.
I think they had to delay a little bit in main. I feel like the Inara kind of gave herself away when they had a massive advantage up top. Headed was working his magic. All the Inara really had to do, all Groundford had to do was stop moving. He just had to stop them from walking through and getting onto Headed because he was giving them so much space, but Groundford wanted to take a little bit more, wanted to get the card around that corner, gave his life away, and that's what gave Parallax their opening.
Groundford again takes about half of his HP on entrance here. Kron's doing a fantastic job of mitigating the opening, support damage into this ROM. A Spexy there to cover for his tank. RC God has to dash his way right back into the hallway. He's playing in behind his frontliner there, as you'd expect. It's an entropic breach down for Fatal Ambition. It forces a Spexy inside, I suppose, but he just waits it out, comes back outside. And now it's a dash right back into safety from Divino. Now RC got up on the high ground. Big duel here, and it's one that a Spexy wins. Grumpy Bomb won't find its way down to the low ground, but Rubson survives somehow. Might have been a little bit of clipping there that he couldn't see around. A Spexy is able to finally clean up the kill. It's a double kill from the Bomb King. He's been left unchecked. It's a triple kill suddenly from a Spexy, and that'll be a good defense for Parallax.
Perfect there off of a Spexy, just taking a ton of ground, but I feel like Fatal Ambition had a chance and didn't take it. They used that Entropic Breach above and behind them. Everyone got pushed forward, didn't take a Spexy, trapped in that top room, and they were like, yeah, guys, we did it.
Right.
That was it. They didn't do anything else. They didn't walk in. They didn't pressure them. They couldn't retreat. They had no escape. But they let them reset and back up. And that, I think, could have pushed things in for Fatal Ambition. But now we're here on this next mid 1-to-1. Probably feeling maybe even a little better about that, considering now Parallax don't get that comeback mechanic. But they are down 2 ultimates for this. And Parallax, 5 strong. And the ults are what's going to beat Headed the most. That barrage catches him through stealth. If Nitao has that set up already, they're not going to be able to find that opening pick like they have been.
Yeah, remember, point fight number 1, Fatal Ambition was able to trade back in for some early control, but then Parallax come back in and unfortunately fall short. So Fatal Ambition able to capitalize on an early advantage there, and now another early advantage. RC God gets the kill onto Dintic. No more buck for any of that backline dive now for Fatal Ambition. For Parallax, rather. Rubson falls, so lack of healing. A Spexy works out the King Bomb, does not connect with RC God on the King Bomb, though, and Midtown will end up falling here. The battle for the high ground continues, but a Spexy wins it this time. But you gotta go now, Parallax Gaming. Groundford is already built up 93%, and finally Parallax is able to move back in onto the point.
I think using the King Bomb there probably doesn't bother them that much. It's not an ultimate that's really always going to connect, so just having that probably fine for them, and they still have a couple ultimates to fall back on here, and they're actually stunned, but they can't stand on the point. This is the weakness of having that ROM when then Headed is in position. They can't really do the same thing they were, but he's so low, and he's in the opening, and Kron's just going to give up the point to dive him.
Watch out for a through time and space here as well. Could be a big difference maker. Immortal gets used onto the back line. Overtime is off as Fatal Ambition move their way away. Through time and space, dodged out by everyone there. I thought that could have been a difference maker, might have been. But better positioning from Fatal Ambition keeps them in the fight. It's a Void Grip now onto Groundford. That's massive. Gives Parallax the advantage, gives them their second point of the game, and now the cart is moving towards the Fatal Ambition base.
I could have sworn we were going to see the Cataclysm. I'm sure Doug did too, because we were on his POV. But the Cataclysm didn't come out. They didn't even need it. Even with the Fernando at 1 HP, they just held on to it. We could see it maybe aggressively now as Kronz is just spotting for the rest of his team, as this card's not even close to get them through. But I like that aggressive play. Just run through, get some fragments, make them look at you, maybe get an ability out for your team to push again later. But they have a tank in both lanes, and they're going to have to collapse on the same one at the same time.
Oh man, how about the value that this ROM has found for the final pick of the draft, by the way, and it's been looking good, I think, for Parallax Gaming. Unfortunately, the setup here won't be capitalized on. Kronz will be left alone. He'll knock a few aside, no problem, but Groundford is there waiting, so now Kronz just a touch staggered out from the rest of his team. Fatal Ambition for the time being a little bit better on the defense.
And RC tried to ult there. Actually, probably thankfully died so fast because nothing else could really go out of it. They're trading out ultimates and really not privy to it, I think. Spexy maybe got it forced out, but he's stuck fighting the Nando in the back who throws his life away, and that staggered kill give them a chance to move this in, especially if they want to spend this barrage to catch out headed, and they're already going to engage.
Yeah, great point. A barrage could be the big opening that Parallax Gaming are looking towards. Damage down, but no real damage done there. Looks like he canceled it a bit early, 43% still on the barrage, so it'll charge up somewhat quickly. It has to be a quick turnaround there for the ROM, and is able to make it out alive. Now a Spexy here on the left-hand side is going to try to control as much space as he can, throws up a Grumpy Bomb. That's going to force Fatal Ambition back just a little bit further on the right-hand side. A few more members, and look at the high ground on the back line. The ROM rumbles his way on in, but Fatal Ambition able to just sort of shrug things off. Mitau, as important as the Strix is on the other side, Mitau needs to go big here for Parallax Gaming. Some of this long-range confirmable damage. Going to be important. Double seismic crash, though. Finally buys Fatal Ambition an opening. Mitau stays alive, but you can't say the same for Kronz. Can't say the same for Outlander. Spexy will fall to Groundford as well. And it looks like we're barreling our way towards the tie game.
Interesting use of that seismic crash, though. I don't know how I feel about it this close to the end of the round, but I guess there's not a ton of counters on the other side. Fatal will confirm that defense off the back of that. It's so hard for them to break through on the side of Parallax. You can see Kronz gets in for free, but what does everybody else do? You push through fire, there's an Inara there. You push through the top area, there's a Nando there. And you're constantly getting bullied or getting a shield placed right in front of you, so you can't really do much more than at least drawing a tank's attention. Maybe once you finally do spend half your resources, oh, we finally pushed the Nando back. Now there's headed invincible in the spawn. You're not getting any further than that. You're getting bursted through. Parallax, though, they're doing pretty good about not taking damage. Look at those healing numbers, Dave. That is kind of an insane disparity between these two, because I think Parallax are either just instantly dying in fights, or they're playing their health very carefully.
Yeah, agreed. It's, you know, I suppose it's the potential for healing, maybe a little bit slower, or lower, rather. Rom has been playing off on his own, so in the back line, just been a lot of squishies being healed up, but maybe a side point here. Kronz will work his way into the back line again. What's he accomplished, though? That's the big question here. He has forced headed to look in a few different directions. Groundford is going to make a Spexy go right back in towards the high ground side. Actually jumps down, and a Spexy will get the stun there. It's a 2-for-2 trade all over the map here. It's an Entropic Breach on the back line, but Parallax Gaming positionally just a little bit better. There is an answer in kind, though, from the Fernando. RC God through the Void Grip, able to curse an arm down. And now Parallax Gaming, no Genos here on this mid-fight. Fatal Ambition, though, haven't been able to make up that ground just yet.
They finally get back in from that initial kill that they got, and I doubt they're going to be able to kill Kronz here, who is still just a absolute menace for them. But it looks like maybe they tried too hard to take the upper ground. Parallax's respawners all came in. They managed to kill Divino, and Kronz is just constantly resetting his run. He can't stay alive, but he can cause chaos and cause a cataclysm.
Oh man, but Fatal Ambition just turn around and kill off Kronz. This one's very close, 57 to 48%. Outlander again. Keep your eyes for it through time and space. It just takes one pick to get your team back into things here. Oh, Roopson eats it, but doesn't end up dying. Dintic will get a kill onto RC God on the left-hand side nonetheless. Roopson still half HP, but Parallax Gaming has not been able to take advantage of that just yet. Kronz works his way in, sees headed. He might just cancel his sprint here, and instead is just going to keep on working. A seismic crash catches a Spexy up on the high ground, but he survives the second shot from the Strix. Just a bit short, or just a bit off the mark. Around the corner goes a Spexy. This King Bomb won't find anything, so ult for ult is the way you can kind of look at things there. Groundford waddles the Inara right back onto the point here, and Midtow is going to burst down some damage. 1-for-1 trade. Barrage, toggle, then it's going to get a kill onto Roopson. A fantastic look here for Parallax Gaming, especially if Midtow wins this one. Of course he does. It's a triple kill. Looking for a quad, but a Spexy's got it. Parallax Gaming, though, the important number's 3.
That lifesteal stack going to keep him up against RC, just barely hanging on to life when that dive came in. RC had made the right play. RC made the right play. He was in the right position, he pressured the right person, and then he just took 2,000 damage in 2 shots. You can't really plan for that ahead of time, and RC continuing, I think, to make a decent decision, forces them down from high to not let them play that position that they want, but he forces himself down, and there's no way he wins this duel. Dintic's going to take advantage of this and push in.
That's right, but able to delay things. RC God will get healed up and start to plug some damage into the backside of Dintic. Now it's Divino up on the high ground. This off-tank Fernando has tried to match the pressure of the ROM, but that is always going to be difficult. But this is exactly where Parallax stalled out last time. I don't know if it was Midtown's positioning. He swapped things up. Now he's up on the high ground. But they have just not been able to get consistent damage into the back.
No, there's just no way other than Midtown, and when he peeks, he's going to lose that to Headed unless they spend ultimates here. Plus, that aggressive dive can come in at any time. If they lose high ground, then Nando and Andro can go in without really being too concerned about it. You see, finally some space gets taken. Instant headshot, instant kill. Groundford's there to clean it up. But right now, both their tanks are on low, and Parallax, if they move fast enough, they might be able to take advantage of this.
That's right, but Parallax Gaming still slow playing here. Headed has just been an absolute menace on the back line there. There's all these kind of individual one-on-one matchups you have to look towards. RC God versus Midtow or a Spexy, depending on where he goes. Oh, the grenade. That had to be single-digit HP. Kronz will get the kill. Nonetheless, an interesting choice of dash there for RC God. Maybe now is where Parallax Gaming find the opening. Divino will have to dash away, but he only finds the cart. Midtow through the barrage gets rid of Roopson. Now Groundford goes down as well. Parallax Gaming can hit the gas here with Fatal Ambition down to 3. An Immortal will delay out this fight, though. Grenade up onto the high ground. RC God, Divino down. Still Headed, though, but he has to go back into base. Look at the point tank respawn. Groundford, the backups, and down he goes. The Inara wall will buy some time. Seismic Crash stuns down 1, but doesn't necessarily save his life for the time being. The cart rolls in, and Parallax will finally get it done.
After spending every single ultimate, because that's kind of what you have to do to break through there when you're not running that triple DPS. But I like that they saw their advantage and said, listen, if we go into the last mid-fight 3-3, we've won harder, right? We've come up against harder odds before, so let's just throw it all at the wall, see if it sticks, and it did. I think 2 mistakes at the end with the tanks on Fatal Ambition, Immortal saving nobody but himself, and the Inara wall probably could have stayed up a little bit longer to buy some more time for the respawns. But Fatal Ambition, they got close, but Parallax, even with a maybe harder composition, made it work.
Yeah, what do we think now about the off-tank Fernando? I mean, Divino 4-11, so a tough game for him. And you saw in some of the fights, I don't know if it was consistently every single time, but the Fernando seemed to be in the backline trying to match what Kronz was doing. That's such a tall task. I mean, that is what ROM is built to do, and while Fernando, I think, can do it, it's harder. You're kind of fighting an uphill battle trying to match that pressure.
I just find it weird that he went Aegis for off-tank Nando. I mean, it's fine if there's a lot of ways to easily break your shield, but I feel like if you're going to play off-tank, at least play Scorch and have some more damage. I mean, Kronz plays solo tank Scorch all the time. If you can do that, you can definitely play it when you have an Inara backing you up as well.
There's the, I think Kronz maybe sneaks one away there. That's the Poppy Bomb off the high ground, so Spexy, I think, the silver medalist in that one. And you know, we didn't, outside of, you know, a few multi-kills here and there from a Spexy, really get to call his name all that much. I think he was doing a silently, and really wasn't all that silent, his stats were fantastic in this game, but a really good job of starting to show us why BK, Bomb King, not the burger joint, can be valued on certain maps in certain situations. It's just that space control. I mean, it's such a buzzword, but I think it really does matter where you can't fight into this Bomb King. You're opening up space for Mitau here and there. I mean, that's just so powerful to have on your side. So I love seeing teams like Parallax bring that into their side, and Jag Falls is another type of map where something like that could work.
Yeah, Bomb King 100% can be a pickup on this map. And you mentioned space control, but I think really what it comes down to is his CC. He has great around-the-corner damage, but he's one of the few DPSs that really has a lot of CC in his pocket. Grumpy Bomb, Poppy Bomb, all of it displacing you, pushing you away. It doesn't have to be necessarily all done through raw damage. He has that around corners, but you want to push him, suddenly there's a Grumpy. Oh, I just have to leave. He owns that space for way longer than maybe a Vivian or a Victor can do with just that raw DPS.
Well, now I wonder if Fatal Ambition, especially on a map like Jaguar Falls, feel that extra bit of pressure to ban out something like the Bomb King. They've already taken the Mave away, very similar, the exact same rather, from what they did in Game 1. A Talus taken away now by Parallax. Definitely have seen some success for the Talus here in the past. I suppose Jaguar Falls is a map where the Talus can work fighting around those corners, Rune of Travel on back, get your damage off, and things are generally looking good for your side. It is a tough game now that you're playing if you're Fatal Ambition, because Mitau has been fantastic on this Victor. Spexy on the Bomb King has been very good, and Fatal Ambition, instead of just going to look elsewhere and take that Torvald away, and maybe that's smart, you consider how annoying a Bomb King or the flanks can be for a Spexy. You pair that with a Torvald and they're near unstoppable.
Yeah, especially if you want to play aggressive, Torvald shuts you down so hard. You have to get rid of it. I think it made sense for Parallax to do it with their comp last time, with the ROM, with the Buck wanting to go in, but Fatal Ambition, this to me says maybe they want to be aggressively minded by getting rid of it. It really does counter out a lot of that. They will end up with a Victor and probably a Genos, unless they want to give Parallax that combination. I think it would make sense to take that, but taking that Vic, I really would almost rather a Tyra sometimes on this map. I think you could wait on it, but they might just be scared of Mitau getting it again after how he played last map.
Oh, I agree. I mean, Mitau has been playing fantastic, I think, for this team. So much of when we talk about the damage dealers for Parallax, we sort of talk about a Spexy because of the run he's had over the last few weeks, but Mitau has been right there and just as important for Parallax, so definitely good to give him a shout here and there as well. Victor and Khan. So Victor and Fat Victor, the first two for Fatal Ambition here. Khan has been sort of in an interesting spot, Krez. Some teams seem to like him. Maybe it's even just region-based. Some regions do, some regions don't. Why do you think Khan here, and do you think he's any good?
I think Khan is fine most of the time. He has that deployable shield, he has the shout, he can just bully you out pretty effectively. Would I pick him second on Jaguar Falls? Probably not. I think maybe you could argue it on Ice Mines, but I think that would be the only map. His ultimate is still fantastic, but now that you're picking it, they can pick some stuff that might be good into it. They have the Xin and the Eevee. Neither of them really stellar into him, but it's not like he's any better. I was thinking more of a Bomb King, a Blast, or something around the corner, but either way, maybe they just wanted it for some extra healing. Maybe they want to play a Death Ball style, but the Genos kind of, now that they picked that, says otherwise. Yeah,
it does seem that way. Genos obviously going to be very good here for Jaguar Falls. You talk about line of sight breaks and how many of them there are on Jag Falls. That, I think, gives Genos just that extra little boost here, the ability to heal through those. Fernando again now for Fatal Ambition. With the Khan already locked in, Krez, it seems like this might be a return to the good old point tank Fernando, maybe where he belongs.
Which, I wonder if Fatal Ambition picked Khan there just so if they picked Nando second, they wouldn't pick the Khan to grab him through his shield. Which is a little weird to me, because you could have just grabbed the damage dealer or grabbed the Genos, and then grabbed them at the same time. Not really sure how that order ended up happening, but Parallax don't even want the Inara on their side, interestingly enough. They want to be aggressive with that Torvald band. They grab a Cassie, they grab an Ashe, and they have a comp that can run down the core of Fatal Ambition.
I'm going to run at you time and Maybe one more time again, I think, for Parallax Gaming. A good draft for how we know they want to play. Then the big answer is to Fatal Ambition, rather, have a draft in your eyes that can compete with that type of playstyle that Parallax will obviously be bringing.
I think if they didn't have Victor, I'd be a little bit happier about it, but I have just had some bad memories of Victor getting absolutely rolled on this map. But EU, I just see Makoa, Slop was trying to play in main, and Cruncy would come around the corner and just insta-gib him immediately. It's just really hard for Victor to survive against super aggressive comp, and that really is what Parallax have drafted. It's kind of all the Andro to cut them straight down the middle when they come through.
Yeah, Eevee, I think, is going to be fantastic here. Androxus, in some moments, might be able to out-duel her, something to look for there as well. But Eevee, if she's able to kind of get free and clear in onto that backline, Victor's just going to have such a tough time. That ice block, that split second to just buy yourself a time in some of these fights is just so important, I think, in winning some of those matchups. So good there. Cassie, to round out the draft here, might expect that to be Mitau, but we have seen that flex through. Of course, Dintic can play those types of picks as well. I'm interested to see where all of these picks end up landing for Parallax Gaming. For game number 2, Parallax versus Fatal Ambition. Game 1 showed us some of that good old-fashioned Fatal Ambition pushback, but it was not enough to get the win on Stone Keep. Will it be enough to get them the win on Jaguar Falls? We'll have to jump down in the game to wait and see. Krez, we started to see a little bit of a rise of this Cassie here as of late. I think it makes some sense. I think she's still that core of her kit, the utility and the damage she brings. I think still just makes some sense why we continue to see her.
Yeah, she's a safe pick, right? I think if you can pick her early in the draft and not be too concerned about where she's going to end up here. I did hear, or might hear a little bit earlier, that not PS1 is actually switching in this game, so they're moving RC Soldier to the off-tank position. So they've kind of removed Divino, again, someone who I thought was kind of instrumental to their success a little bit earlier, now out of the picture for the double controller DPS again, and they're starting this mid kind of split apart, and it looks like Kronz is pouncing on someone who's alone.
And it's a Spexy on the Zen, not the Eevee. It's Mitau playing Eevee here this game, not PS1, able to finally get a return kill now for Fatal Ambition, but he has to dash on through just to heal up some of that missing HP. Shot punch, that's good for a kill on a Kronz. He has 20 HP, healing up slightly thanks to some of the dashes, but Mitau will end up getting the kill nonetheless down the back end. Headed has been left unchecked off in the back, so he'll stay alive. And the call for Parallax at the moment, Krez, is to back off and regroup.
Smart to do it, I think. You kind of need everybody if you're going to play an aggressive style like this, especially the Cassie to follow up on some of your damage, and RC is kind of isolated. They have to actually go help Kronz, but maybe he doesn't need it. He actually he's full health, and he kills RC and is continuing to distract for Mitau on this Eevee.
Oh, not PS1 has just had such a tough time constantly being dove in on. Parallax Gaming have finally, it seems like, broken the side of Fatal Ambition just a little bit. 63% for the red side. They'll work their way back in, but they've got a wall of damage to move through in order to even have yourself a chance. It's a dash on out from Groundford, but it's 96% already for Parallax. And this is important. Parallax Gaming, they've already started to take the fight to Fatal Ambition. This map can definitely start to snowball.
Oh, 100%. And they have the draft that should be doing it. I mean, they did lose Mitau, but it's still 1-for-1 right now. The card has a very long distance to move, but actually, I like this play by Groundford. If they think they're losing the fight, just dive the back line. This is how you split a dive, right? This is how you beat them. You go and hit the core that's leaving themselves behind, and it's going to turn this fight in their favor.
Oh, but look at Kronz. Kronz is doing the same. Kronz is diving the back line. A Fatal Ambition. Parallax Gaming still working this card forward. Kronz a bit on his own here. Has the shoulder bash and will get the kill onto RC. What a play there. A little bit of assistance from the rest of his team as well. Finally, somebody will have something to say about it, and Kronz will have to watch in black and white for another few seconds, but the cart continuing to move forward. Spite, Entropic Breach, both ready to go. Fatal Ambition, inarguably better off as far as ultimates go. This is a big one. You need this Accursed Arm to connect, and instead all that connected was damage up onto the high ground. RC God falls again as well. Parallax Gaming don't look like they want to slow down.
I mean, would you want to if you're on the attack?
No,
they definitely
not really.
want to keep this pressure going. Look at that reversal, though. That was actually A perfect timing block by not PS1, but now they're just staggering. Fatal Ambition tried to repeat the magic they had on that earlier push, and it's really punishing them now. They're just collapsing on Groundford over there on the right side.
Oh, Groundford one shot away, and Midtown will get it. Oh, what might have been a body block there. Just the range was too short for RC. Parallax Gaming able to kill off one frontliner, block out the second, get their second point on the board. And the damage numbers, I think, tell the story here, Kresnik. It's only the healer. It's only Outlander down towards the bottom. All the other 4 for Parallax on top of everyone from Fatal Ambition.
And the Ashe out-damaging the EV and the Cassie because he was just in the middle of their team that entire time, just dominating them, basically. And with no way for them to stop, Groundford, I think, did a solid job turning heads, but it wasn't long enough for them to actually make something out of it. And RC struggling a little bit on this con, but roll swap for him from off-tank, from DPS, excuse me, to off-tank. Maybe a bit to adjust to, but Fatal Ambition can still turn this around. They have comeback mechanic. They have Overpower, one of the best ultimates in the game, if not the best. And they could go for it right away. Kronz is just gave it to them, and they wanted to take it. They want something better.
Fatal Ambition now, I mean, this is an important one to turn around. You do not want to start to get snowballed, not only on one round, but in an entire game of Jaguar Falls, because things can be over quickly. Overpower, no. Kronz moves his way away just in time, so RC God now has to wait for it to come back up. 87%, this would be a fantastic assert dominance if Kronz had it, but instead the space control from the Ashe is just going to be good enough to force the backline of Fatal Ambition on and away. They have not had a leg to stand on as Parallax have really been in the driver's seat from the get-go.
Yeah, they're just going to keep holding them back into their spawn. Look at this pressure, too. All this AoE is really hurting them because they're grouping up to try to be safe, and then they get punished by Kronz, they get punished by Midtow. Just so much hitting them as they try to go through, and I don't think there's any way for them to go in, and Kronz is going all the way in the back with an assert dominance.
Oh my, hey, it's the same story we saw last time. Kronz is going to get pulled out of the assert dominance, so RC God will be able to get himself back into the kill feed, but Kronz has bought enough time to get the cart moving. A Spexy has to billow his way away. A few members of Fatal Ambition now are going to group up there onto the high ground. Parallax Gaming only have the Entropic Breach, but they've got plenty of time to get this one done. This run at you, run them down composition has just proven too much time and time again for Fatal Ambition. I mean, who maybe get a kill or two here and there, but it's just so consistent, so much damage, really, and pressure from Parallax.
Yeah, it's hard to stay alive through it, especially when you have a solo heal Genos healing 2 tanks, but sometimes those kind of fights can happen. The 1v1s can go in your favor thanks to having that Genos, so another kill to Fatal Ambition on this now aggressive defense with everyone on their team kind of stuck grouping up, but a scout will force them back. That's exactly what the ultimate does. It relays some pressure a little bit for now. You can just, you know where they are. They don't want to push you because you'll win that fight for sure, so it forces them away, and Parallax is taking even more ground.
Oh, but there could be an opportunity for a kill on a Dintic, but look at the healing. And in the meantime, a Spexy has 2, a third onto the board now, and it looks like an Overpower will get 1. A quad for a Spexy into the backline. He goes. RC God will fall. Full-on sweep now for Parallax Gaming, and a Spexy continues to get it done.
Zin can really he's one of the few that can get away with that, with all his ways to chain his abilities, with all of the other things he has. They also starting with the Execute, of course, helping out quite a bit. And this card is so close, but they have some ultimates they can spend. Immortal maybe can keep them going. They don't have that Overpower, any other impact, but RC has to try to flank.
PS1 does get an opening kill here. Very important, but still 40 seconds left. Might feel like the round's about to end. It's because how close the card is, but Parallax Gaming has so much time to regroup and work in. But this is where things can get dire. If you continue to get staggered like this, you're not able to fully back off and regroup if you're Parallax Gaming. And so Fatal Ambition have given themselves a fantastic chance. They force out the Immortal, though, and I'm not sure Parallax Gaming are going to be all that sad about that.
I am... Dave, I'm so confused. I can't possibly. That was one of the strangest.
Imagine what I am, Chris. I mean,
that was one of the weirdest uses of an Immortal I've ever seen, and they're actually still back happy, but Outlander won't be able to get away with it. Well, Midtow gets the OT, but no one is even close. Really strange use of that Immortal. Now they're not going to have that. They still also don't have the Overpower, which they even missed last time anyway. But a couple strong ults up for Parallax, specifically the Assert Dominance, soon to be the Guillotine. He's at 99. But this is, just looking at this, what a Spexy can get away with on a skillful character like Zin, where you have to just chain your abilities have good game sense. I mean, he's 10-3. He's still heads and shoulders above everybody else here in the damage charts on a character that he's not even running the damage boost talent. He's just doing that much on his own.
Everyone nodding or shaking their heads. Hey, guys, you think we're going to win right here? Yeah, Outlander says yes. It looks like Spexy is saying definite no. I mean, he's doing full-on 360s there, but my money's on Parallax Gaming here. They're moving in with the momentum, even despite a defensive stop now for Fatal Ambition. Only Victor has sandwiched his way in the middle of 4 members of Parallax Gaming on the damage charts, but Spexy's going to have something to say about it. Works into the back line here. Oh, the spite! Catches Groundford from around the corner. Spexy already with 1 will whirl his way in. A chance for a second now, and Mittal will assist him in getting there. He's feeling himself, you can tell. Turns around, unfortunately not PS1 will put an end to the fun there. Parallax Gaming continue their roll though, and Rubson will fall. Not PS1 puts up the reversal. He'll go down. Luckily Headed is back on the respawn though, so not a clean win for either team just yet.
No, and Parallax will get staggered out here. I'm assuming just by the way that they're positioned at the moment, but wait, the Entropic Breach, maybe that'll be enough to peel them out. Actually, both tanks are stuck in, and no one can really peel for Headed.
Oh, nice. Except for headshots, I suppose. My money's in a bad spot, suddenly, out of nowhere. Fatal Ambition looking great now on this mid-fight. They've got a barrage as well. The Overpower was used just a moment ago, so it's a barrage against an Ice Storm here, both damage dealers. A chance to turn around this mid-fight. RC God trying to keep up with all of that mobility. Overtime is on. There will be a touch from Parallax Gaming, provided they can get in range, and they, of course, can with Mittal. RC God, Battle Shout, pulls him on back. Through time and space from Rubson, that's going to connect. But the rest of the kills for Parallax Gaming starting to roll through. Fatal Ambition, they're going to get pushed out here. Parallax, they will not win on this fight. They need at least 1 more.
They might even be able to get a stagger that helps a lot. Rubson's movement is sick, but it doesn't help.
No.
And Groundford all he had to do was maybe try to get out. He had Immortal and everything, but just taunts. Doesn't think his team can do it, but I think that might be the last decision he's made in this map.
Yeah, it does seem to be that way. Now, nobody's going to get in range. Parallax Gaming actually step off to get a few more kills and then step right back on. And they'll get themselves the win. My money ended up being safe after all, and Parallax Gaming make it 2.
Did you tell Groundford that your money needed to be safe? Maybe that's why he stopped and
I might have. I phoned in a quick call there. What are those? What commercials are those? Like the Wild Wings commercials where like they sprung sprinklers out of the ground and like the guy carrying the ball like tripped over them. Yeah, it was one of those moments where I buzzed in a quick favor and then we just stood there and decided not to play for the last few seconds. I guess to be fair to Groundford, the likelihood of
he was in a bad position.
Right. I mean, you know, we're talking a 1%er here for him to maybe turn around one of those games, or turn around that game. I mean, he's 1-9 there down the stretch. Not PS1. I mean, about as polarizing of a game I think as you can have. 11-10. So he did a lot of killing, but also did a lot of dying.
That's what you have to do on a flanker, though. That's what you're kind of expected to do. The rest of your team gets him low, and then you trade your life sometimes. Maybe you get 2, maybe you get 1, but as long as you equalize it, it's generally okay for you, Fatal Ambition. Doing a weird little reversal with the talents and everything for the Nando. Off-tank Nando, they run Aegis. Main tank Nando, they run Scorch. Maybe flip that around a little bit, and you might be having a better time, but Groundford did at least manage to out-damage RC, but not even close to touching the damage of everybody else on Parallax.
And this is not necessarily a slight against Fatal or Parallax. It's still just wild to me that neither of the teams, and I guess maybe it makes more sense that Parallax didn't, prioritize the Inara in that draft. I mean, we're going Khan, Fernando, and Ash over the Inara with how good the Inara's been. That's definitely interesting to me. This is a Spexy working in on his quadra kill. I suppose you're right in that, you know, flanks, they kill a lot, but they tend to die a lot, but Spexy didn't get that memo here this game. I think he was 14-5. But this is just sort of the cohesion, I think, all in all. This game's a great microscope, I think, into what Parallax do so well, and it's just the aggressive run-at-you play style, and everyone seems to be working together. If it's not one guy, it's another for this squad, and it's just so hard to stop. Fatal Ambition shows some signs of life a couple of times, but ultimately it's not enough. It's always just going to be so difficult against Parallax, and Bright Marsh not going to get any easier.
Yeah, Parallax are great at playing together, as you mentioned. I feel like a lot of the time, some of these other teams, maybe a little bit lower, you'll see will get close to overtime, who's going to touch the point. Maybe they send in 2 people, but I feel like Parallax always has that covered. They always have someone to touch smartly, get them a safe overtime, or the right person throws themselves onto the objective to extend that fight and give themselves the best chance that they have to win. But Brightmarsh is the next map, very similar to Jaguar Falls, so they probably feel on Fatal Ambition's side that maybe it was just in the draft, maybe they can figure it out. And Flankers banned already. Verticality's important on this map, but I don't know about that important as they first pick ban Torvald because they don't want it themselves.
I'm just intrigued that Parallax have banned the Eevee away. I mean, they like that pick for themselves, and maybe there's somebody on Fatal Ambition who can really play this pick well on Brightmarsh, so behind the scenes maybe something makes sense there. Vivian as well will continue to be banned out, as well as the Maeve. She's been banned out all 3 games now so far. So Fatal Ambition, I guess the play here from what we've seen is to take your pick of those Mark healers, and Corvus seems to be it.
Corvus is doing pretty well with it, so makes sense to want to pick it up. He's doing a great job at sustaining the team, keeping them up the Entropic Breach. We're seeing him for solid setup too, just not maybe followed up on all the time, but it's been doing a good job of slowing them down, and of course, speed boosts to the flankers and all of that. Genos, though, the immediate response, don't want to give it up. Definitely probably not going to pick a con that early either on their side. They're prioritizing, I think, what the right things would be here. I think a DPS would be a good fit, maybe take a hit scan away from Fatal Ambition. You know they're going to have 1 or 2 depending on if it's not PS1 or Divino, so take your pick of it and leave Fatal Ambition with the rest.
Form up and follow me in.
Well, instead it's Ash, who is definitely the spearhead for the Parallax Gaming draft there on Jaguar Falls. The ability to have some tankiness as well as big setup and sometimes even disengage ultimates was just too much value there for Parallax. So while I agree and maybe take away the Victor instead of taking the Ashe, I mean, I'm definitely not going to disagree with an Ashe pick here at all for Parallax Gaming. Corvus and Victor, the first 2 for Fatal Ambition. Victor is going to be massive, I imagine, if it's headed or whatever their lineup is. If it's RC Soldier back away from tank, I don't know. We'll have to see where everyone ends up landing here. And this is what I've wanted to see. Finally, we're starting to prioritize the Inara a little bit higher here in Game 3. Fantastic pick for Brightmarsh to contest with a lot of the damage that's going to be pouring in.
I think that the Fatal Ambition draft is almost identical to their draft on Stone Keep, right? Except switch Victor and Androxus, I believe, in those first 2. So they're kind of leaning back on what they had previously. But Parallax, they really want to dive. They want to be aggressive, so they grab the Ruckus. They can have him go into the back. We're seeing Brazil is starting to be kind of just this melting pot of the other 2 regions combining. Torvald and Ruckus are in the same conversation, which we would never hear in NA or EU. Maybe EU a little bit more now, but Ruckus definitely not coming around in NA here. Xin is the next pick, something aggressive, something a Spexy can play to go into the back line, but they're going to have to do it right into a waiting bomb kill.
And thank God, so long, and for like however many weeks here, and let me clarify this, obviously some games on stream, off stream, Fatal Ambition definitely have this pick in their back pockets, but it seemed like only Parallax were willing to kind of work towards it in most, if not all of their games, and I've been preaching how big of an advantage I think that is. So, I'm happy now that another team is feeling confident in really prioritizing that pick and what Bomb King can bring to the table. The Lex, though, admittedly, Krez, throws me for a bit of a loop here. Is that how you imagined Fatal Ambition were going to round out their draft?
Not this time around in particular, but I think it's actually a good pickup. Run Discovery, throw a mark on him. He's going to be fighting into an Ashe and a Ruckus that can't really stop him from getting lifesteal as long as he gets lucky with the marks. Yeah, as of this patch, you still don't have that safe reroll. You have to hope and pray that you get the right targets. But if a Ruckus lands into a Lex that has a mark on him, I think Lex wins, even with Caught 3. I could be wrong about that, but Lex does such an outrageous amount of damage and gets so much of that back as healing. I think Ruckus just loses, and that Xin pretty much has to be in perfect sync to actually win out that dive.
And this Fatal Ambition draft is like a Parallax kind of vibe. They've got somebody to sit back and do big damage. They've got a Lex for a lot of flanking. They've got a Bomb King for doing something in between. I like it for Fatal Ambition. I think at least out of the draft, they've given themselves a chance to win here. Agreed with your points, though, on the Ruckus. But Brightmarsh will tell us whether or not Parallax Gaming continue. Well, actually, it won't tell us. It'll tell us whether or not Fatal Ambition work us on to a Game 4, or whether Parallax Gaming move on to 12-0. The Strix quietly gets locked in towards the end of the Parallax draft there. So some of that dive is going to have to connect onto Kronz, who's playing the Strix, by the way. Dintik is going to be on the Ash with Mitau on the Ruckus. So bit of flexibility here for Parallax Gaming, and it's already a double kill for Spexy. Oh my, look at the dive for Parallax. They haven't even given me a chance to intro the game, and they've already deleted Fatal Ambition.
Yeah, just pull back the curtain a bit. Normally it's supposed to be Dave intro, I then maybe give him an idea, and then Dave calls the play. It's already over. We haven't even had a chance. It was just that fast. And I do want to mention really quickly before another fight breaks out, Kronz on controller this game. So Kronz actually plugged in the sticks to play this Strix, and it's already working out with his first pick.
I guess, man, and I don't think anyone's going to contest you on that. Parallax Gaming, they're already fighting for the push here. 93% for Parallax Gaming. Fatal Ambition, 0% on the point, and I think 100 is bigger than 0, so the quick math on that one checks out, and Parallax Gaming working their way in now with the card. Spexy is so low here, not PS1 in to save the day, and it's a double kill for not PS1 as well, so finally now some momentum to turn around. Fatal Ambition, they lost the mid, but now they've got some momentum on the back foot here on the defense.
And they're able to get another follow-up kill for a stagger here. Interesting to see RC running Death Hastens. It really just is not better than Discovery, but it might let him play a little bit safer into that Genos, which could have been a worry, but kills traded back and forth, both flankers unsuccessful in finding their ways to the backline, but now PS1 way overextends himself and should fall to this push.
Kronz and Mitau do end up making not PS1 and Headed both pay for it. Now Groundford left out on an island, a bit on his own here. RC works his way in, but ultimately he, saves his frontliner's life, but only for a second. Now he's paid with his as well. Kronz is going to be so valuable now for Parallax Gaming in here onto the backline. I'm not sure what just happened over there to the right, Krez. It sounded like an assert dominance triggered and then jumped off the map. I don't know if you caught that. At any rate, Ash is now back and respawning and coming back from base. And that's going to now give a small numbers advantage to Fatal Ambition.
Yeah, Fatal will be able to stabilize and move back in. There is someone in the middle of them, and there comes the assert dominance. It knocks 2 down, and Dintik is still in the core of them, and they'll take down Headed first.
All right, so this one connects for Dintik, and he desperately wants to get up because RC is up on the high ground very low here. Dintik left a bit on his own. Outlander will finally get the kill onto the Lex, now working their way in. Our Parallax, Groundford, Void gripped up. Headed will throw down the Grumpy Bomb, and Spexy will be able to dodge out the damage here on this one. 30 seconds left, depending on how staggered out one team or the other gets. Could be the final push. Losing Outlander first, that's brutal. Parallax needed him maybe more than all to keep this push where it's at.
Look at this retreat. I like this from Spexy. You can kind of spend your spites like that when you have Yomi, which he is running currently for this. You can tell by the big damage he's throwing into that Inara. But look at this overextension by RC, and he goes for 1 pick and ends up being that on his own, opening the door for Parallax.
Spexy, oh, the world won't get him out alive, but Outlander's got a double kill. Is that the lifeline Parallax needed to work on in? Groundford still alive, being sustained. And unfortunately, it might all be for naught, but now Groundford falls and one has to go down, and RC God is the one. But Mitau gets a double down the stretch, and Parallax Gaming end up converting.
And Kronz has just been a force back here. So hard to get onto him, because how do you get in, you know? You have, what, RC slides through the team, they have a Genos. You just get gripped and die. That's what happens to Lex when he tries to push into a Genos. And Headed, controller Bomb King, not PS1. He's going to have to stay in the back line. It's just really hard for them to get in and do anything. Headed really struggling right now. 10,000 damage less than Mitau on this Ruckus. Mitau definitely showing his flexibility. And look at this life rip being bought all across the line for Parallax. They are sustaining themselves. Even Outlander gets in on the fun to keep himself alive through this. Waiting for, I think, another level of Chronos here. Nope, Master Riding to help them have this, but they don't have any ultimates, really. It's only Hexafire, and that normally takes a bit of setup, so Fatal Ambition, if their King Bomb hits a little bit better, it could help significantly.
Well, Fatal Ambition have already improved, Kresnik. They have 3% on the point, so that is better immediately than what they did to start off this game. Let's see if that 3 can become 6 and then maybe 100 later on for Fatal Ambition. Now a barrage is going to give them that opportunity. Mitau eyeing the sky a little bit. There you go, double dash up and over. He is up high here. Dintic now locks down the back line. Hexafire, into the back. Goes Mitau here, but unfortunately he will not live, not PS1. Some free damage there. One more quickscope from Kronz does it. Turn to the right, he's so low, it could have been another big kill for him. Instead, it's Groundford who eats the quickscope. Parallax Gaming able to win the fight yet again.
And I mentioned how hard Hexafire was to set up. Even when you have set up, it doesn't always work. He landed in the middle of an entire stunned team with a Hexafire, and he didn't get a single kill. He just did a little bit of damage, and now they don't have that, but they do have a flashbang, and they grip that Genos. Again, that hard counter works, but Groundford, Outlander trades his life for it.
1 for 1. Parallax Gaming still in dominant position here. Groundford, though, is the one who's able to get the kill onto the Genos. It's a seismic crash, but Mitau just shrugs it off and stays alive. 99% for Parallax Gaming. Headed might have to move his way down. Half on the overtime. Fatal Ambition do make their way in. Suddenly Headed starting to warm up. Just needs to lob 1 or 2 more bombs for the delayed 3. And oh, just around the side goes Outlander. Not PS1 will get it. And suddenly Fatal Ambition have found life. And Krez, I think their first point.
And comeback mechanic makes that impossible for them to retake, and maybe a bit of a misstep here from Mitau. You can't really get aggressive as Ruckus alone completely, especially when the whole team is ready and waiting for you, and these tanks are way outpacing their DPS. Everyone else is so delayed because of Groundford that it ends up being a main tank trade.
Parallax Gaming suddenly looking a little shaky after everything looked good. RC God with 2. Now the Lex is going to put his name in the kill column a couple of times as Not PS1 continues his 7 streak. Parallax Gaming look near infallible for the first 2 points, Kresnik, and it's Fatal Ambition now with all the momentum and a chance to tie the game against all odds.
And they actually have the mark on the Ruckus for RC, so he will again be able to do very well in this duel here as Mitau goes down really low, and actually they dive in, but they lose Outlander, and they're all so low and nobody can heal them back up.
1 for 1 though, and it's Not PS1 who ends up going down. A lot of that long-range damage confirm is now gone. Here's a big 1v1. Aspexy's going to win that one. Headed still alive, though. So is Groundford, so is Rubson. So the cart will continue to kind of work its way in, but Parallax Gaming now, they get a big swing of kills. There's so much time left, though. At this point, you're kind of balancing on that edge where Parallax have all of their ultimates outside of the Spite, but pretty liberal usage with that ultimate. We see more times than not. Fatal Ambition, though, working up on a few of those ults. We'll have to see in a few seconds where Fatal Ambition are feeling confidence-wise, because they're going to get them up. Now it's 2, now it's 3, soon to be 4 ultimates. They have a chance to tie if they really want.
And that CC really helps them come in here with that. And I think they could spend it. I mean, I say that only because Brazil seems to always spend their ultimates, and here comes another one from Mitau. I have absolutely no idea why Headed went to challenge that, and it gave Mitau a double kill. That probably should have been a single one, and there is just absolute chaos here with these Parallax tanks. Mitau manages to somehow get out.
But not for long, as RC God will get the kill there, and now this Lex is going to try to keep things moving. Into the back he goes. RC God has been connecting with some good damage since the onset of this game. We hadn't seen much from him, but now some new life breathed into the Fatal Ambition team, and Caster's Curse, RC God will have to leave, but look at the seismic crash. It gets Dintic into a bit of an awkward spot. Oh, the reload comes through at just the wrong time, and RC God can't get the convert, but Parallax Gaming, they did enough. Or Fatal Ambition, rather, they did enough. They forced Mitau back up to base, and you had no tanks at that point.
Yeah, no way for them to come back in, and that's one of the problems with the double aggressive tank, right? You go in, you make that play, but if things go wrong and they're still on the cart, then they just cap it right behind you. And again, I mentioned it, Brazil is just willing to spend their ultimates, and Tropic Breach, Seismic Crash, both come out, both end up taking down everybody else trying to stay on that objective, and it lets Fatal Ambition do it, but probably going to be a different look for this mid no comeback mechanic for Fatal Ambition this time. They had it to guarantee them the fight last time, and now they don't have that cushion to play off of. They're going to have to win probably 2 fights unless this first fight is really messy from Parallax, and that doesn't seem to be in their vocabulary.
Messy, chaotic. That can all mean similar things. Maybe not, though. Maybe that's just explicitly untrue. We'll get back to that in just a moment, though, as Parallax Gaming. Maybe it is a little messy. Midtown dives into the back alone, seemingly, as the assert dominance from Dintic was only up on the fringe of the roof there through time and space, and no, not PS1. We'll get the kill onto Kronz at the end of it anyway. It's Fatal Ambition, who seem a little bit more cohesive at the moment. Parallax Gaming, after a roaring start to this game, have just not been able to capture that same fire in their mid-fights.
It was a big mistiming for Mitau. He went so much further than the Ash to get them that free pick here, and he gets another one. This is the opening they need with everybody taking the apartment side now, exactly the space that they want to take, but the respawns are in the way, but they're still finding kills.
And here's where Parallax Gaming can turn things around. It's 33% in climbing for them as Fatal Ambition have established control on the mid. Groundford is going to run down Outlander, but it's a 1-for-1 there as Kronz will snipe down one, actually. I think Outlander stayed alive, so that's unfortunate for Groundford. Would have been a big trade to get that healing out of the fight. This is a big one for Fatal Ambition. Poppy Bomb up and over, rolling through he goes. Should be the kill on a Dintic, and it sure is, but he's traded out his life, but you gotten rid of a lot of the backline dive that Parallax Gaming have relied on. Flashbang into the back. Won't find much there with that one. 99% for Fatal Ambition. You're going to have to send Midtow on to the point, but overtime got reset, and Fatal Ambition able to touch their way back in. Midtow prioritizing the Hexafire and the double kill instead of point control, and now Fatal Ambition on the verge of winning Bright Marsh.
Mitau was just too low to refight it. He kited away with the Spexy, both of them knocked very low, and had to hide in pit just long enough for them to not be able to recontest. A great wall by Groundford slowed it down as well. He put it in main and forced them to go on that far side, but Fatal Ambition have to be careful not to overstep. They also need to maybe be far enough away to give the tank something to dive to get a kill, and they get a dive, but they spend the seismic crash. They still kill Mitau.
Oh, but unfortunately, Mitau is the only trophy Fatal Ambition will have here. And the second place prize is the full team wipe that Parallax Gaming are able to get. So, against my odds on this one, my betting odds, Parallax Gaming are now the ones trying to fight back into tied up territory. Spexy has been very hot and cold here this game. Remember, started off the game with a massive sweep for Parallax, and then has cooled off some since then, though I guess anything is down from there. He hears me, though, and they'll get the kill onto RC God. Now Fatal Ambition. Remember, Fatal Ambition, the ones trying to push here. They've got a full wall of Parallax to work through.
There's a lot to do, but they're right next to their spawn. They're going to constantly get their members back faster, so these trades coming out from them on the offense will always look better for them. They kill Mitau. They're going to have their guy back in 3 seconds already. After that, Mitau's still 8 waiting to come back to this objective. But Parallax, they'll be here in time to at least take a fight in a choke point. They burnt quite a bit of time here. Them all kind of getting just forced back. The slow play, I think that's what Fatal need, because they have to be ready for the dive, and almost the Poppy takes him down, but he's now caught in the whole team.
Yeah, well played for a moment there from Dintic, but it was out of the fire into the frying pan. Wait, that's backwards. Is it frying pan into the fire? It is that, isn't it? You don't...
Yeah.
I swear I know sayings, I promise. Out of the frying
Maybe it's a cast iron, Dave. It might just be really hot.
It could be, you're right. It's so hot you jump up into the frying pan. Yeah, you leap so high, I guess. Either way, you got cooked. And now has to respawn. Fatal Ambition, 10 seconds left on this push chance, and regardless of how short Bright Marsh can seem sometimes, this is definitely a tall task to be had. Especially if you want to hold on to your ultimates towards the next mid. Things can get interesting, though, in moments like this where your team starts to get a little bit staggered out. 2 kills suddenly as Dintic and Kronz fall down. A couple members of Parallax in back behind, nowhere near the cart. It's going to be another one for RC God. And then not PS1 will make another for himself as well. This one not over just yet as Fatal Ambition make up some ground.
And Fatal, again, they love to spend ults. They might just use them and try to win right here, especially with Mitau still respawning. He will be up for the time to make it to this objective, but here comes the first one, Barrage, but it just forces Kronz into spawn, and now a bunch of charges hitting basically nothing.
It did get a little bit of shield killed off, so that's good news, but here's the seismic crash. That'll make the difference. Dintic and Midtow are gone. No more frontline for Parallax Gaming. No more time. They're going to have to send down the squishies. And Headed will gladly take those odds. Fatal Ambition, they take game 3, and they'll push us on to a game 4.
The triple DPS comp ends up working out for him against that double tank, and the dive, it's risky. It's risky against that. It's when there's so much damage waiting for you, and it worked out at the start. They looked so dominant, but one little mid-fight goes wrong, and then maybe they trip over themselves trying to actually get back into the backline.
And it's those moments. It's those moments where Fatal Ambition are able to convert and show us that they have the ability to take down some of these teams like Parallax, though it's just the one game. Something jumps out at you there, Krez. You know, a lot of double-digit deaths for Fatal Ambition is sort of what I'm seeing here, but what are you seeing on the stat screen?
I mean, Dintic, the initiator, but really never cleaning up any kills. He went 3 and 15, and definitely rough game for him into that composition, I think. The Bomb King, the Lex, a lot of damage on him to make it very difficult to stay engaged. You use your shoulder bash, you get stuck twice, and then you just can't live through that. The debts over your shield as well make it significantly harder. So Dintic, really hard game. Maybe Midtown just stole all his kills. It's hard to say, but not PS1, I think. Both of these DPS, Headed and not PS1, I think did a solid job. You don't normally see the controller Bomb King being played, but Headed made it work.
You sure don't, and I continue to feel validated in my love for this pick, and teams picking him up and making it work here. Victor as well, you know, that's less surprising. That's not anyone's ever had to make a case for as far as Victor being good, and anyone who disagrees, I don't know what to tell you. The guy is good, but it's those types of picks that, you know, for Parallax in Game 1 looked fantastic for Midtown, and when Fatal Ambition have had it, it seems like that is the bright spot. So I definitely think that's something that this team can continue to lean on, especially if not PS1 is going to continue to be playing here throughout this set. He is fantastic on that pick. So, Krez, we're on to a Game 4, and that's what Fatal Ambition have to show us. It's definitely going to be interesting to watch how things round out, but we don't do that right now. We got to take a quick break, and when we come back, well, then we have Game 4. And we are back with that Game 4 we promised you between Parallax Gaming and Fatal Ambition. Parallax, they are on set point. Fatal Ambition, they need to win 2 more in order to get us there. But what a turnaround there for Fatal Ambition there, Kresnik. I mean, it looked like Brightmarsh was going to be over quickly after the first couple of points, but they showed us some willpower to get themselves back in it.
Yeah, the willpower definitely was the key factor there with them. My mental would be shattered, honestly, if I got annihilated as hard. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Groundford did the last map when he started daunting in front of them, but they held on, and Parallax now get their map pick, something they're probably not super accustomed to doing, and they want to go to Frog Isle, a map that I think we don't see as much anymore. Tina's been banning it quite a bit lately, but we had a Warder's Gate, Fish Market Bazaar ban, all of those maps taken out, instead leaving this map open. So I expect to see snipers banned. I expect to see maybe some flankers banned as well. All of them, I think, get some solid priority on Frog Isle.
Well, Strix is already there, and now Knessa, ever so important to take away if you're one of these two teams. Parallax Gaming will be in that first pick slot, so maybe you place the onus on Fatal Ambition to ban out the Knessa if you prioritize her that highly, and that's exactly what Parallax will do. Take the victor away for the first time this set. Now Fatal Ambition have to decide. There is a lot left on the table when you leave, or when you're forced to ban out different picks. The Torvald's still around. The Knessa will get taken away. Now Parallax they get pick of the litter here, Kresnik, as far as maybe what healer they want, what point tank or frontliner they want on their side. Genos has been their go-to, and it'll be Ash here for Parallax Gaming on Frog Isle.
Makes sense. Ash is great at pushing up the danger side. No matter what backline Fatal Ambition take, they're going to be dealing with an Ash that they maybe need some sort of defensive off tank to slow down. And maybe can they play Atlas? They can play Khan, but Khan definitely struggles at least at getting aggressive sometimes there. So I think they force Fatal Ambition into picking some sort of defensive off tank. They really can't afford to be aggressive on their own. Even if they end up getting that ROM, I think the Ash with the ultimate maybe can do even more impact there. Corvus will be the pickup though. They want that Entropic Breach. They want that healing through the walls when they have those marks out, and they want a point tank to deal with it. So no backlines, no DPS picked up just yet. And Inara Corvus, I don't hate that start at Fatal Ambition.
What do we think here in the battle between the Corvus and the Genos? I mean, obviously they, as far as type of healing they provide, it's very similar, but, you know, it's sort of damage on one side, a little bit more utility maybe on the other side. Is that, more, in your eyes, is that more of a preference thing between Genos and Corvus? One works better in one situation, one works better in the other, or truly even, and it's just sort of what situations built around them tends to win out in that decision-making process?
I think they're close. I'm starting to lean more towards Genos is better, but you also have to draft around Genos the rest of your comp, whereas Corvus can kind of slot into anything. You can throw Corvus in anything and he'll do fine, but if you throw Genos with like an Inara Terminus composition, your team is just going to get out sustained. Right. Genos won't be able to really make up for it unless your DPS are absolutely bonkers and make up for that difference themselves. Fatal Ambition, though, they definitely go the defensive route. They grab that Torvald, they grab the Xin, and now they will just try to lock down the danger side with that. The Torvald's ultimate, fantastic on this map, but they might just end up getting poked if the backline on Parallax ends up being better. They have a Leon there, and they get the Eevee. Whatever backline Fatal Ambition pick up now is going to get just bullied by this Eevee.
Right, and it's you look at what Fatal Ambition have picked. I mean, the Xin can find some decent damage, but it's got to be somebody who you think can connect for real consistent, maybe some direct damage to make Eevee uncomfortable. Fernando will round out the draft now for Parallax Gaming, so they have Ash for a little aggression. Fernando can definitely supply some of his own, but maybe down onto the point. And it's a Willow to finalize things here for Fatal Ambition. They have Xin, so some mobility and damage there. Willow provides much of the same. What do we think about the backline here for Fatal Ambition?
Dave, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like the Willow. I struggle to think about what it's going to really be able to do. The point fight can just get shielded by the Willow. By the Nando on the point, excuse me. I think Dredge would have probably been better here. It's one of his best maps.
Yeah, but you're a Dredge truther. I
mean, trust me, please. I played Pugs against PPC players, against 2 snipers on this map, and won. I have won with Dredge into 2 snipers. He works. He works for Fatal Ambition. They're playing a little more inconsistent. They're playing this Willow who won't have that consistent poke, and anytime they try to ult, it's going to be Mitau on a Leona waiting for him on the other side.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Normally, I always side with the Torvald compositions because they're just too fun to watch, but I don't know, man. Parallax Gaming, they have a draft that's been proven time and time again to work. Frog Isle for what could be the final map, but it definitely is the 4th map here in this set between Parallax and Fatal Ambition. Fatal Ambition on Bright Marsh able to withstand the pressure that Parallax were bringing and finally tally a win for themselves here in this set. Get a quick look at the talents before diving on into things. Scorch Fernando, Krez, so does that tell you anything? Maybe he'll swap it before we leave base, but what kind of mindset does that put you in here for this Fernando?
If Kronz just doesn't run Aegis. I mean, he just does not do it at all.
Fair enough.
I don't know if his mindset's going to be different. He just wants to poke. He just wants to do a little bit more damage instead of having that extra shield timing. But damage onto Groundford. Mitau getting forced out, but the first pick goes towards Parallax.
1-2 punch for Parallax Gaming. Fatal Ambition already have to work their way back towards their own base, and that is usually a death sentence here on Frog Isles, a map that can snowball out of control very, very quickly. Groundford left in the corner. Parallax Gaming still building up at 42%.
And the Leon paired with the Genos is really showing its strength here. All those abilities get that extra little bit of damage boost paired up with them, so it just tears into them here. And this Torvald, the shield will do something. It'll help them, you know, by a moment of respite as they try to get in, and they throw the flank in for OT, but look at everybody else. How are they going to take any space when everyone else is waiting for them?
Yeah, I mean, that looks like a two-tap on the shield from this Leon if she's connecting, so able to mitigate it up to this point. Headed flutters away, but he's so far away from the point. We won't have anything to say about it. Parallax Gaming strike first here on this one, and they're going to keep things rolling. Look at the way that shield just evaporates under enough damage from Mitau. That was 1 or 2 shots. There's just too much pouring into Fatal Ambition right now.
It's a lot, and Fatal Ambition just can't keep up with it. Now PS1 also now isolated behind that tree. Dead Zone not really slowing down anything. They just walked right through it. They don't care, but Groundford at least make the right decision, I think, to pressure the objective.
RC and Groundford now both missing from the rest of the fight for the next 5 to 10 seconds, depending on who you're looking at there. How nervous the rest of Fatal Ambition are. Bruh's right, Spexy. Maybe with another one of those sprays. This is getting brutal for Fatal Ambition. A spite into the back line for Fatal Ambition, or for against Parallax Gaming, rather, won't really result in much here. Things continue to work their way in. Groundford quite low, is going to have to throw up the wall to keep himself safe. But look at this, the dive from Spexy. If he had an Ice Storm, this one definitely would be over, but the flick will get it done nonetheless. 2 for the EV now. And the third is around the corner, but the rest of Parallax will get it done. This cart very close to rolling in. Maybe a chance for a respawn, but Parallax very in control.
Loved that combination there, the assert dominance with the dive in from the Eevee. And look at Groundford. I mean, Roop said he tried, but just destroyed from full health with a Torvald bubble down. It was a good grip onto him. And Fatal Ambition, I think the fact that they're lacking this Hyper Beam is going to hurt. Because Hyper Beam, this is one of the best mids for it in the entire game. Half the map is just danger. You're just going to get sent flying out, but only 1 kill for any of them across the board means RC is not even going to be close to it.
Yeah, that's we're sad if we're looking at the KDAs now for Fatal Ambition. Groundford got the 1, so he's looking around, wondering where everyone else is. That 1 kill gives him all the power in this situation. Come on, guys, you can't be getting blanked like that. I've got a kill here. You guys need to as well, but that's an uphill battle, as well as any set is going against Parallax Gaming. But Fatal Ambition turned around a game like this on Brightmarsh, so they can do it again here if they dig deep and put those best foots forward, which we know they have. There is the ability to turn things around with ultimates as well. A seismic crash will find some backline pressure, and not PS1 has a double kill. These are the moments that Fatal Ambition have been able to set up and then take advantage of. Outlander now goes down, 2 forced out, and Headed picks up 1. Not PS1, chases down. It's his 3rd kill in this mid-fight. And the fast cap might just be enough to get it done.
And the combination of ultimates really is what made them collapse, and the timing of this stagger is rough. Look at that Hyper Beam, actually. It catches his Spexy mid-blink, so he won't be able to go in at all. In Fatal Ambition, spend the spite as well to stop Didn't take all the resources used just to stop the retouch, and it's exactly what Fatal needed.
An Ice Storm will get the kill. Oh, Spexy, what a play. Goes off the map, makes his way back up, and unfortunately, Groundford right there and waiting. This is what you need on defense on Frog Isle. Parallax effectively never let up. The Enlightenment just dodged out there, and Headed actually stays alive. Mitau not able to finish off that kill. And then the Flutter will keep Headed in this fight. I'm delaying because I want to see what's going to happen here, and I think the Willow just escapes. So that's a small win for Fatal Ambition.
Yeah, the bubble keeps him up, and I did like how we got to see the Leon Classic there with Mitao, where he just dashed across and killed an Inara that I think neither of them had any idea the other was there, but just so happens that she was low and in the open and ended up getting caught out. Parallax, though, Spexy is buying them so much ground here every time they try to push. It's so hard to fight into an Eevee in this situation. Xin doesn't have the worst matchup of it, and the Torvald will help, but PS1 could have just waited, but he overextended.
Yeah, and you know, at this point, we've seen how difficult it is to fight into a Leon on a mid-fight anyway. Now you're putting all of your pressure into somebody who wants you to be showing yourself, so not surprising that Parallax Gaming have found themselves an advantage here on this defense. Still a minute left, though. Fatal Ambition close to a couple of their ultimates and have a couple as well. The Seismic Crash, so nitpicky in that it's such an important ultimate in locking down targets, and it's what really helped Fatal Ambition win their first mid-fight of the game. So while, you know, this Brazilian region loves to use those ults, and I love to watch them use it, I want to see some restraint unless this is really in a position to go through.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It hurts me when I see ults spent and times
it.
they don't need them enough. Hey, there goes the Seismic Crash, and it gets a kill, actually 2 kills from him, but their team was already losing the fight, so of course that doesn't really turn the scales too far the other way. Groundford will just delay himself on point, and Parallax end up in just as good of a position as they were before without spending anything of their own. So Fatal Ambition, if anything, I think RC's just got to poke. He's got to just walk in a little bit, charge up his Hyper Beam so they can have it for the next one, and he should have it at 90% now, and that will be pretty much now the only thing they can really rely on.
What is the most kills you've seen with one Hyper Beam?
7
kills,
no,
not just
all
of them.
All of them. I mean, he killed his own team with it. It was so crazy.
Right.
On a professional game, or
just in any game. I'm just curious.
I think I've definitely seen full teams die to it, but in like a pro game, 3 I think is the max I've really seen. Not many people really go down to them because it's not only is it countered by resilience, but it's so telegraphed a lot of the times. It's, oh, he's going to the spot. He's going to do it. He's going to the one spot that's going to kill us on most of the maps. Right. This is one of the few maps where you can do it in other spots, though. It doesn't have the death position. He can play in main. He can play in window. Either way, you're next to death 90% of the time because this map is 90% death.
I appreciate the gravitas in the delivery there, and RC God's not going to get the chance to use the Hyper Beam just yet. Nobody from Fatal Ambition is going to get the chance to do anything. Parallax Gaming, they've swung with all of their ultimates except for the Immortal, which Kron still has pending retake. Now Parallax Gaming in a dominant position. They just get the Ice Storm back up as well. Brutal for Fatal Ambition on their retake attempt.
And everybody lives from the Hyper Beam, too. The one thing that I thought kind of had to make a difference.
The least amount of kills.
Yeah, the least amount of kills he could get, other than reviving someone on the other team. That body block in the window, too. I don't know if they can get past this, Dave.
Ice Storm might be the great divider, and Parallax Gaming better off for it. And they're able to take Frog Isle. A small stumble there in the second mid-fight, but ultimately things go their way down the stretch. They drop a map here. They have been known to do that once or twice, but they still stay clean in that last column.
Yeah, for sure. Parallax is... They're just so good when we get to see them play. But these teams are catching up. That's, I think, the biggest thing we can take away from watching them play recently. Everyone else is catching up to them now because we're seeing maps get taken off them. We're seeing them get taken to the brink. If you think about the Parallax Carnage game, it's actually, the gap is closing. And it hasn't been for the longest time, but Fatal Ambition, this map didn't look that way. It's just more of a general thing because they did not have a chance to really keep up with them here. Parallax just played at such a pace that no one could follow it.
Yeah, Mitao 10-2 and 10. That seems good to me. And ultimately, Groundford having the most kills on your team or close to it. I think not PS1 had what, 4 or 5. Groundford had 5. So that's a tough uphill battle you're fighting there. I appreciate the Torvald compositions, but the way they kind of built around it, I think, was always going to be tough to fight into, especially when we know Parallax had a composition that was pretty good at turning things around. This Ashe, you know, specifically, and I think good to highlight her kind of first in the highlight package, however brief it was. It's kind of like the backbone, I think, of a lot of these Parallax compositions. That ability to open up the space for the rest of your team to then fill has just been big, I think, not only in this set, but just for Parallax in general.
And Ash and Eevee and Frog Isle is just brutal no matter what else is around it. They just cross so much distance, especially with the ability to follow up.
Right.
With the Nando as well, use the Immortal on your team. If you go in and maybe one ultimate gets canceled, you just save everybody. You stay in the middle of your team, and you have over 1,200 DPS.
It just works. You know, it's one of those 1-2 punches that just feels good. Love seeing the Eevee, love the Ice Storm. I mean, that one was just a well-rounded composition for Parallax Gaming in general. So, of a potential 36 plus-minus for Parallax Gaming, they've dropped a whole 9 maps through 12 sets, but are yet to lose. Fatal Ambition, unfortunately, dropped themselves to another loss here. Remember, In Control and Ignite, I believe, are playing this weekend. Carnage Gaming and Tempest team are as well. And hey, we'll confirm that with the schedule here. So some of those middle of the pack matchups, Krez, very important as we start to wind down here in phase 2.
Yeah, for sure. In Control Ignite is going to be a big one for seeding, and also just for who wants to win. Pride, right? Those teams have had good matches every time they've played against each other. I'm definitely excited to see that tomorrow when that does get played, but we still have North America ahead of us with that. We have Sanguine Snap, and another matchup that I think is really important for seeding, especially since these are the last time these teams are going to play against each other before the round robin is done. This is the third rotation. Snappin are looking like a solid team with their new changes, but Sanguine have been looking like a whole nother team from the start of the phase when they were really struggling.
Yeah, that Sanguine team at the onset, I almost couldn't believe it. They win the phase 1 playoffs, and then, you know, struggle through the start of phase 2, but have started to heat things up here. So North America seems to be up for grabs, with maybe a small exception there up top. Definitely going to be a lot of fun to watch. Sanguine versus Snappin'. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have that set ready for you.